Hey Thunderbirds, it's Tammy Thompson Cap. I'm here to share with you an overview of our teaching and learning structures to start off the 2021 school year. If you're anything like me, you might be feeling a bit like this, where we're taking what seems like a gigantic leap of faith. We are going from one ledge to the other, hoping upon hope that we're going to land on solid ground when we get to this new destination. As we do that, there are different ways of thinking that we can use to help us through this process. If you're an optimist, that's where we really want to be. I tend to be an optimist by nature and always want to see the positive and the good. And so we want to continue to live there whenever we can. Pessimism is where we want to avoid because that's not going to serve any of us well. However, realism is probably where we'll need to be for now and the foreseeable future. Someone much smarter than me once said that clarity is the antidote of anxiety. And so for me, I get clarity in a variety of different ways. And for you, whether it's at the beach or in the mountains or just on that road to the great unknown, hopefully what I can do is to give you some clarity similar to when you have it in those different experiences so that you have a greater sense of what to expect as we start the new school year. So for this week, we have adjusted the professional development opportunities to really elevate key information that we feel is essential for everyone to have, and then have balanced that with the time needed to make sure that you're as prepared as possible. Throughout the process this week, we're going to really need to continue with our creative problem solving, having grace with each other and the process, and always presuming positive intent. Few updates that I wanted to provide, some resources for you from the Naomi Harm sessions this summer, as well as the educator collaboration time are linked in this slide for you. We also are going to be making some adjustments to the PLC structures and PD calendar to make sure that we are providing as much time as possible for you to collaborate. One upcoming change will be to the September 2nd PLC structure, which had been devoted to Naomi Harm, and we are going to repurpose that at a later time to ensure that we have that time available to you next week. The next group of information there are all the various technology platforms that we use. And because our class rosters have not yet been finalized, you may be realizing that you're not getting the full utility that you're used to because of the rosters not being completed. And I just wanted to assure you that all of those things are continuing to be works in progress. At the end of the day today, you will receive an exit ticket so that you can provide some feedback on the experience that you have today. And at the end of the week, I will also be sharing a professional development needs survey so that you can help us to be proactive and responsive to planning for some needs that you may have around technology, providing feedback, grading, reviewing data, learning partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. We want to be sure that we know what you need and then do our very best to provide opportunities for learning for you. This week, you will have an opportunity to listen to 3 keynote speakers. Information about the focus of their topics is included in the weekly overview, with the resources also linked here for you as well. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, there is planned time for you so that you are able to set your classroom up, get ready for open house, and then revisit a number of the tasks that you began working on this summer. One other important piece of planning is going to be the assessment schedule, because it's going to be important for us as soon as possible to be gathering data around what kids are currently in need of learning or what their current needs are with learning through assessment data. So to kind of frame our thinking as we go forward and continue with the reopening of schools planning, we want to be sure that we are closing achievement gaps that may exist. And to do this, we have to double down on instructional practices that we know are proven to accelerate student learning. We're going to do this by increasing instructional intensity so that we have students on the path toward those end of grade level benchmarks that they need to achieve. Robert Marzano tells us that creating a guaranteed and viable curriculum is the #1 factor for increased levels of learning. And so we're going to need to continue to study, act, plan, and do to ensure that Every student is impacted every day and every way. The good news here is that we have already identified our priority standards, and last spring, you already began to identify what standards were missed because of the closure of school. So we're going to need to find that sweet spot between what those immediate prerequisite skills are and what the absolute essential standards are, and that is going to be our target. To do that, we're going to have to help each other. If we're not quite able to make it to that ledge, we're going to have to be willing to lean over and lend a hand and help our colleagues up so that we can all be successful. This is where the social and emotional learning comes in. And this is not just social emotional learning for our students, it's for us as well, so that we all have the ability to apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes so that we can understand and manage our emotions, so that we're able to set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So we're going to band together to be effective and efficient. Some more good news is that we already know how to collaborate and we have PLC structures in place. And this slide tells us that the world's best performing school systems function within a professional learning community. So through purposeful collaboration, we're going to make sure that we identify which students did or did not master specific priority standards. We're going to identify the instructional practices that either did or didn't improve learning, and then plan for re-engagement. And then we're going to really need to empower our students so that they can use results to understand their own progress and help us as we work toward those end of grade level standards and the progression that students need to be successful. Again, revisiting the guaranteed and viable curriculum, we know that if we're going to make this a reality, we have to work collaboratively to really study what the intended curriculum is and agree on the priorities. We're going to have to clarify how this translates for each specific student, and then revisit some of our pacing guides and how we're delivering the curriculum. And most importantly, that we're committing to one another so that we are actually teaching what we've agreed to teach. Because we know that some students are going to need some additional time to master the grade level curriculum. And we also know at the start of any school year, we have kids who are lacking essential foundational skills. So this is going to also require a little bit of shift in thinking about assessment. We're going to need to move from assessment as a source of stress to a catalyst for success. We're going to have to move away from assessment to identify gaps to really determining strengths and inform next steps for instruction. And then to really think about how we are approaching learning away from deficit thinking and regression to asset thinking, growth mindset, and opportunity. To do that, we're going to need to lean on our balanced assessment system. We're not even sure at this point what external assessments we will be required to administer, but we do know that we are going to have district benchmark assessments. The three remaining on this slide talk about common assessments and formative assessment. And these are going to be the key pulse points that are going to help us to inform instruction. So if we take away the focus of report cards, state assessments, and universal screeners for now, and again, focus on that sweet spot of the immediate prerequisite skills and the essential standards, that's where the team common formative assessments are going to be critically important. We know that in order to accelerate student learning, we're going to have to identify exactly what all students must learn and those who are going to need some additional help by either individual student or standard. And then making sure that we have the systematic multi-tiered system of support in place to provide the interventions that some of our students are going to require. We will need to individualize instruction so that we can reteach essential standards, make sure that we are providing time for students to gain those prerequisite skills, and extend student learning. And while we do all of that, probably the key aspect and most important is self-care and self-compassion. And so when we think about self-compassion, mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness are three critical attributes. Mindfulness is the non-judgmental self-awareness that moves us away from what's bothering us. Common humanity is a reminder that our feelings of inadequacy are universal. In other words, we're not alone in our feelings. And self kindness is when we're able to project warmth and understanding toward ourselves, which will counterbalance the feelings of fear, anger, or frustration that we might be feeling. So, this little roadmap will hopefully help you be kind to yourself. And I would encourage you to lean into the moments of connection with each other, that we are not alone in this experience, and we have to embrace moments of celebration and ways that we can be strong and resilient together. We got this, Thunderbirds. We have a strong team, and we are all here at Central Office to support you in any way that we can and wish you a great start to the year.